Hello, everybody, and welcome to this not mid-afternoon, midday stream on the Tuesday. So, unfortunately, Zak Mbhele couldn't make it. This was due to Parliament actually requiring his services at a 12:30 parliamentary sitting. So, Zak unfortunately couldn't join us. But at last minute, I at least could kind of repurpose this into hang on, this camera angle is a bit funny. Repurpose the stream into an actual discussion about the rhetoric we're seeing from government right now in the media pertaining to alcohol and cigarettes. Not so much a firearm issue right now. Hello, Conrad and Charles, by the way. Not so much a firearm issue right now, but that doesn't mean it won't become one. So if you look at the rumors about the booze ban apparently starting again on Thursday, I've not been able to establish any truth to this rumor. I've asked around extensively. At this point in time, from what I can gather about it, it's just a rumor. There's no truth in it. But, and this is a very big but, what we have seen from government, especially from the Premier of the Eastern Cape calling for a reintroduction of the ban, they've been seeing from NGOs, so-called medical professionals, so-called subject matter experts, politicians, the like, they are on an absolute warpath to reintroduce a booze ban and to even sort of turn South Africa, by the sounds of the rhetoric, into a dry country. Now, for us that know our history, is you know that the United States of America had a prohibition. They had a ban on alcohol through most of the 1920s. And the major effect of this prohibition is it didn't stop America from drinking. In fact, it created large-scale, highly profitable bootlegging. You had the moonshine cars who ran their moonshine in vehicles that were designed and souped up to outrun law enforcement vehicles, which was coincidentally the origins of NASCAR, because NASCAR is the National Automobile Stock Car Racing Association, if I got that right. So NASCAR had its origins in bootlegging, which had its necessity in prohibition, alcohol prohibition. Also, one of the more famous, or rather infamous, historical characters of the prohibition was Al Capone, who made a lot of his money and his wealth and became very, very rich thanks to the prohibition. So alcohol prohibitions don't work. Okay. The question we need to ask is, why is government suddenly behaving like it's sort of like a Puritan virginal sort of thing? Why is our government infantilizing us to make us believe that we cannot make decisions as grown-up adults? Major issue. Okay. Major issue. Oh, by the way, Anton, I am on YouTube today. You got it late. I don't know why. Major issue with this is that, yes, okay, let's acknowledge that alcohol does drive certain unwanted, undesirable, and violent behaviors in society, because a person consumes alcohol irresponsibly and then behaves irresponsibly, even criminally. We're doing the same thing by attaching the blame to alcohol, as if that somehow absolves the person of their own agency. The person who abuses alcohol and then does bad stuff while under the influence, that was their choice. They made an active choice as a sentient creature, a sentient human being with a brain, with agency, with a legal accountability and societal accountability to behave in the manner they did. The substance is not the cause. The person is the cause of their own bad decision-making process, which then led to them going down the spiral where they cause stuff, bad things happening. They need to be held accountable directly for the misdemeanors, the crimes, the felonies, whatever you want to call them, the offenses that they commit, the irresponsible behavior whilst under the influence, right? So let's just square that circle right away. Acting as if booze is the root of all evil is ignoring the fact that very sober human beings have done terrible things throughout history without needing alcohol to help them do these terrible things. Again, we are trying to address a societal problem by regulating a substance or an object. Okay, so that's the problem with booze bans. The second question we have to ask is, who is profiting? Which connected individuals are profiting from alcohol prohibition? Because we all know prohibition doesn't work. The United States is a grand example of it. The fact if you go to any Arab dry country, and I've worked in a few, I've worked in a great many Arab countries that are dry, I've always managed to find booze, and not even at prices that were terribly inflated. We always found alcohol, even in a dry country. So booze gets in, regardless of what, legal frameworks you put in place to ban it. Same with cigarettes. Okay, this anti-tobacco league, or whatever they want to call themselves, got into the media. There's a huge media push right now using the exact same lines out of the Gun-Free South Africa playbook, the anti-gun rhetoric playbook, to justify a continued ban on tobacco products, a continued ban on cigarettes. They tell us things like research indicates that many South Africans have quit smoking during the lockdown. They don't tell you how many South Africans. They don't link to the research. It's done by UCT, so already red flag for me. As soon as someone says to you, research indicates, that is a surefire sign that they're about to sell you snake oil and bullshit, okay? Research indicates you're 4 times as likely to be killed by your own gun than use it in self-defense, even though research never indicated anything of the sort at all. Is even if you go and read the original research, it doesn't indicate it. It indicates the opposite. So as soon as someone quotes the lines at you, research indicates, they're about to sell you a lie or a misdirection or something along those lines. So we've got an anti-cigarette lobby. We've got an anti-booze lobby. They're using the exact same tactics that they've used against guns all this time. And now we have to ask ourselves a question. I don't smoke. I'm not going to start smoking, but and I hate smoke. I hate cigarettes. I despise it. But I hate this attack on it more. You're an adult. You have the right to vote. You have the right to procreate. You pay taxes. You've got the right to make choices in your life. And if your choice is an unhealthy one, if your choice is somehow detrimental to yourself, then that's your right. You're the person who's going to carry the consequences. And before we start talking about your chain reaction consequences, just stop with that bullshit. Because if we're going to talk about that, then we have to ban junk food. We have to ban all sorts of stuff for our own good, like a nanny state. And that's not what life is about. If you want to live in a nanny state, you're not living. Okay, we have to understand that life comes with risks. Choices come with consequences. That is something that we learn as children, cause and effect. It's the most direct example of it. If a kid does something naughty and you spank them, not abuse them, you spank them and explain to them why they did, why it's a bad thing, that's a sort of learned cause and effect. If a child touches a hot stove plate, that's a more natural cause and effect, is they get burned. They go, okay, I made a bad decision. I learned something. It's part of your neural framework now, the learning process you carry on. Beth, of course, with her wonderful channel, Eleutheria, please go subscribe to it. Beth and I will probably, hopefully do a stream about this sort of stuff soon, because Beth is a homeschooler. She's a mom. She's a freedom fanatic like the rest of us. And I think this learning process thing is a very important thing to talk about. So all in all, we're summarizing this brief chat. Government is using the exact same tactics they use against gun owners, against alcohol and cigarettes. It's ATF. We're getting our own ATF, guys. And we need to stand together. We need to fight this, even if you don't smoke, even if you don't drink, even if you hate those things. We need to stand up for freedoms that are being eroded against our will and against all good conscience. And before I start interacting with you guys, there's quite a few of you. Link below or above this video, depending upon which platform you're on, to the Boeretroos coffee. I drink their coffee. If you buy their coffee through my link, I get a little bit of a commission, because I am now a, whatever you want to call it, an affiliate. It's good coffee from Rian and Dion Kutsia. So feel free. That's way better than begging for money with this very, very oversized Zapper code, boom, which you can also use to scan and pay for my internet bill. So let's see what you guys have been saying to me. At least the audio is working today. Thank goodness. That was quite embarrassing yesterday. A lot of people saying hi. Mr. Punisher, Anton, everyone. And okay, the NASCAR discussion. That's amazing. What do they say? Great minds think alike and idiots never differ. So we got that covered. early. Anton, yes, we will get moonshine, hot rods, and Tommy guns. I'm okay with that. Are we about to turn the 2020s into the 1920s? That's my major question, because we seem to be right on track for that. Of course, Beth is here, so I think she heard everything I just said about cause and effect and learning and all those things. Hello, Jay. It's good to see you here. We've got a Facebook group now, by the way. So apart from, you are welcome to start a Telegram group and just tag me in it, because I used to be on Telegram, then I left because it became too much. So as long as it's moderated and people don't lose their minds, feel free. And send me the thing, and then I'll post it on the group, and then Telegram can carry on. It's fine. And just if people want groups away from Facebook, that's perfect. That's entirely kind of what I had in mind. Voorstier, hello. Ice, have I stocked up? Not sufficiently. If they do a booze ban again, I'm definitely not sufficiently stocked up, which is why I think the concept of fighting it is actually really, let me see, my lighting is terrible. The concept of fighting it actually does appeal to me quite a bit, because government needs to be taught a bloody lesson. They just do what they want, and the rest of us must just suffer terrible decisions that have historically proven to not work. Yay for Al Capone. But that's the idea of libtards. It's not my fault. It's government, guns, alcohol, religion, slavery, and capitalism's fault. I think that's actually really what you're saying is really accurate, Anton. It's a refusal to take responsibility for anything. We must absolve ourselves of responsibility. Mommy and daddy, or in this case, government, need to solve our problems for us, because we do not have the strength of character, conviction, spirit, whatever you want to call it, to take ownership of a situation, be active and responsible citizens, and actually do the right thing to solve that problem. And that's why we keep pushing for prohibitions. It's security theater. We believe society will be safer. I don't want to live in a safe society. I want to live in a society that's free. They're not mutually exclusive. This is the thing people don't understand. Very free societies can be very safe. Okay. But societies that aren't free are miserable, and they're not safe at all. You lose safety by eroding freedom. You just don't. I mean, the Soviet Union was not free at all, and it wasn't very safe. That's why so many people ran away from it. They were willing to run through Checkpoint Charlie and risk getting shot by East German border guards to get away from, the lack of freedom, from their own safety. Right. So, Beth, my dad brewed his own in Saudi. I never went to Saudi, so I didn't buy any of your dad's product. That is, if he was selling, but I got plenty of alcohol in Algeria. Not that Algeria was a dry country, but the part I was in was dry. Lots of booze in Sudan, Djibouti, and friends of mine that went to other places in the Middle East, there was no shortage. So, yeah, you can find booze in any dry country. It's not a problem. It is not a problem. Smuggling will just become highly profitable, as Grant actually, as Grant says, So, and the thing also I must understand is a booze ban will create a situation where people create alcohol that's unsafe to drink. So you'll actually see a higher cost attached to, healthcare consumption with an alcohol prohibition, because people will get poisoned from drinking unsafe alcohol. That's one of the law of unintended consequences is a real bitch. Ice, like with tobacco, they just want to put all the money in their pocket. Don't want to pay any taxes, just clean profit. That's not tax. So look, I'm all for putting money in your pocket and not paying any taxes. If you can do that legally, taxation is theft in any event. The problem now is it is politically connected individuals, again, who are getting away with not being taxed. Before I go off on all sorts of tangents, good news on the hoodies and the clothes. The manufacturers are on it. They sent me confirmation today. So hopefully soon, as in very soon, as in I hope this week, we can start rolling things out. So just keep an eye on it. I know a lot of you are excited. I'm super excited. Beth, research indicates homeschooling parents do their children a disservice. Oh, yeah. Was that Harvard one? Harvard University came out with the most atrocious attack on homeschooling. It was the most dogmatic bullshit, I think, that's been not that's ever been forthcoming from an American university, but it's certainly on par with the dogmatic bullshit that's been forthcoming from UCT, the University of Communist Training. For those of you who don't know what the what it stands for. But Harvard came out swinging with an attack on homeschooling that was not based in any way, shape, or form on fact. And the stuff gets published. But then again, you look at the coronavirus bullshit, the COVID-19 research that is so faulty and flawed, and how the editor of the Lancet went out and defended publishing nonsense, essentially, and he refused to retract. He was forced eventually. But I mean, we've got the editors of major medical journals now participating actively in publication bias. And this is full-blown Orwellian 1984 bullshit. Like, freedom is slavery. What are the slogans of the party? Love is hate, freedom is slavery, something is truth. I can't remember, but the Ministry of Truth is working very hard to keep the truth from us. And that's why I say, if you see stuff published that says research indicates, that's a red flag. Infantilizing equals can't think for yourself, equals state control, equals sheeple, equals what the commies want and what they're getting. But I think enough of us are making enough noise. And that's also why I like this platform has become it's become a lot less about being focused on guns, and it's become a lot more focused on basic civil rights, I think. Anton will have us all covered, guys, if they ever bring prohibition to SA. Beth, who's calling me now? Oh, it's a colleague. I'll get back to him in a sec. There's so many topics that Eleutheria can cover. Indeed, and it's a really good channel, and I love what you're doing with it. Shoal, now I'm an internet shoal. Well, I'm technically unemployed, Shoal. Well, I'm self-employed. Let's do the positive thing. Let's look at the silver lining. I'm now a self-employed entrepreneur, so buy my shit. I don't have to. I'll still love you if you don't. Just as long as you watch my videos, and please do subscribe to the YouTube channel if you haven't. I like decentralizing my platform, so that if one bans me, at least you can get me somewhere else. It's the so-called tiny freedoms being under attack that Eleutheria is concerned about, and that's it. And you lump enough tiny freedoms together, and you end up with a massive attack on civil rights in totality. And that's kind of what's happening. We are slowly having our freedoms eroded, one small thing at a time. You know, alcohol, there are still some people out there that claim to see, they claim to have seen in the beginning the value in an alcohol prohibition from a public health point of view, even though a whole bunch of us said it's bullshit. There is, like, show us the research, which didn't exist. It was all just hypothesized. And they're like, yeah, but it can't carry on. And it kept carrying on and carrying on and carrying on. It's the same with the tobacco. Very good friend of mine was pro this stuff. Now he's whining because he can't buy his smokes legally, and he's starting a whole campaign. And although I'm very grateful that he's starting a campaign at getting the alcohol, while fighting the tobacco ban, I'm just going, guys, how long have we been living in this country? I'm not even old, right? I'm not even older. I'm not particularly jaded, and I'm not particularly what do you want to call it? That thing when you're disillusioned. My English isn't working today. I'm not even all that yet. And there are people that are a lot older than me that have seen the shit show more than I've seen it, and they still trade in the same bloody bear traps. It's frustrating. It's such a frustrating thing to bear witness to, and it gets to me. Mareike, my favorite purple cow. Hello, welcome. Research indicates that single working women are more likely to become alcoholic. Well, it's only if you share your sources, Mareike. Like, we might have to start doing what do you call it? Get them on my small business database so they can spread their product. In fact, I have a wine estate that is interested in getting on the database. It's my first wine estate, my first one, yay, because it's nearly 100 businesses strong, and they will go on there. Definitely, they'll get an honorable mention. But I'm not going to tell you who they are yet, because I don't want to out them yet. I want them to be comfortable first in getting on there. But soon, we'll have a wine estate on there. Married working women seem more into their wine. It's because their husbands and children drive them to alcohol. Luckily, alcohol doesn't go off, so you can no harm in stocking up. Well, it's a very good point. It's a very durable good. It has beer, not so much, as Beth points out, but yeah. What now? Nah, he was there before either of us were born, Gideon, and I think he just shared, didn't sell. I missed the thread of that conversation in the conversation we're having entirely. So you're going to just have to pop me a reminder, because you literally said that like 6 minutes ago. I feel business is coming along. It is coming along. I think for everybody, but I mean, I went to the mall this morning to open the Paratus Nedbank account, and I'm with Nedbank because they're the cheapest. Okay, I'm not particularly loyal to any bank specifically. I'm not here to shill for them. But the parking lot's relatively full, but the shops are, apart from the grocery stores, mostly empty. Like I go to the Seattle Coffee Company, I'm one of 3 people in there. Yesterday, I was the only person in there. Exclusive Books is basically empty. A whole bunch of shops have permanently shut it up. They've got the paper on the windows that mean that the shop is now vacant. Like that's commercial space that's gone. And I'm seeing more and more and more of these shops just disappearing in malls every time I go there for something. And I'm just thinking, geez, like it. I don't think we understand and comprehend. Well, if you're a Bishop schoolboy, you certainly don't comprehend the level of shit you're in. I mean, these kids want to call a list of demands of safe spaces. Roman did a really good video on it on Morning Shot, I think today, actually. I'll put it on the Paratus page so you guys can watch it because he rants better than I do. But, well, he doesn't rant. He just unpacks. He analyzes. He's rational. I'm the ranter. I think that's the major difference between Roman and I. He's good looking and he's got a nice voice and he vapes, whereas I'm none of those things, which is fine. But the fact is, there's so much cognitive dissonance. It actually it astounds me. It absolutely astounds me that people think we're just going to go back to normal. There isn't normal. There's an apocalyptic crisis we first have to get through. The lockdown wasn't the crisis. Lockdown was a cause of the crisis we're about to hit. So we need to differentiate between causal factors and actual crisis. Nice. I agree. I'd also like to pay as little tax as possible, but it's only a select few that get the special treatment and dodge taxes. Of course. We're Animal Farm. All animals are equal, but some animals are more equal than others. Why they hate homeschooling? The last thing they want is for kids to learn how to think for themselves. Exactly, Paul. Exactly. It's a case of they can control what children are indoctrinated with. I'm just going to use that term because let's be honest, the time for euphemism and trying to be objective about this bullshit's long past. Okay, the conspiracy theories aren't conspiracy theories anymore. Alex Jones was right. Okay, not about the frogs, but about a lot of other stuff. And we don't have a deep state in South Africa. We've got a communist government that's pushing an NDR doctrine. They want to centralize state control over every aspect of life, be it economic, social, or whatever. And they want that control, even though there's no way in hell they could ever, they don't have efficient mechanisms of state and organs of state to make sure that control happens. But the fact is, you can see in the power-drunk behavior that this agenda is being pushed, even though we know we can't afford NHI, since Cyril doubles down on who wants national health insurance. With what money, Cyril? With what money? They want SAA to rise like a phoenix out of the ashes when it's more akin to a dodo, flightless and extinct. And yes, I know R.W. Johnson said that, but I came up with it independently because I didn't read his piece before I said it. So both him and I came up with the same analogy. I did not steal it from him. But SAA is a dodo. Why must we pour billions of rands into a white elephant? Again, still. I mean, for Pete's sake, we know we can't afford NHI. The more we tell people, the more we tell government we can't afford something, the more hell-bent they appear on insisting to force the square block into the round hole. We are governed by malicious incompetence. I think something we must never forget. We are governed by geriatric malicious incompetence that don't understand technology or society or anything. Jay, basic example of a new attack on guns was the non-allowance of purchasing specific reloading components or ammo unless you had papers during Croctown. I like that. What a crock of shit. And that's exactly it. It's economic warfare, guys. They shut down the entire economy. Then they decide arbitrarily, old Patel and co. and the shadowy command council. I'm not going to call them the National Coronavirus Command Council. It's got fuck all to do with the virus. The National Command Council, the shadowy, dark hive of scum and villainy, they get to decide which businesses get to operate and sell what to whom. And that's economic warfare. That is actually an act of state-sanctioned terrorism on its own citizens. It's nothing more than that. The terror comes in the fear of the virus that has a 99.998% survivability rate and the perpetrators of the terrorism is your own government. How the hell does that work? Like, we're a failed state, we're a delinquent state, we're a terrorist state. And that's not a right-wing thing. That is by purely observing what government is doing to ordinary people. And just to unpack this, since I'm on this wild goose chase rant and you guys still seem to be watching, a friend of mine does food truck security. It's not his permanent job, but that's kind of what he's doing at the moment. And he gets sent to the mean streets of Cape Town. And he says the reason why we have not had major public upheaval yet is because the townships and the poorer areas ignore the lockdown. They operate normally from an economic sense. They trade, there's commercial activity, economic activity, whatever you want to call it. And that still circulates money, creates income and employment within those communities for a while still. That's dwindling to a degree because you cannot isolate a micro community from the overall macro environment. And if the overall macro environment is sick, because it's been locked down, eventually those economic effects will filter down into those smaller communities, which it is now doing. That's why you're suddenly seeing so many more beggars on street corners. Where there was 0 beggars, only 1, there's now 2, 3 or more per street corner. Every corner has a beggar now, because even though townships are quite resilient in resisting this economic apocalypse because they just ignored lockdown, they couldn't maintain that forever because the resources just aren't there. Now you end up in a situation where a 42-year-old mother of 2 kids is trying to sell her body on the streets just to, she's a widow. She has no other income. She lost her job because of lockdown, and she's 2 small mouths to feed at home. And he gave her a 20 rand, and that keeps her away from hooking for 1 day. This is the true human cost of it. This is the sort of shit we don't see. It's easy to make, from the comfort of my couch or my lounge, for me to make some sort of observation about the plight of the poor. But when you are really confronted with this shit face to face, and you see how visceral it is, it's a whole nother sort of, I think, trauma that hits you, and a realization, and like, stuff's bad, and it's really bad, and it's worse than we've ever seen it. And you don't just bounce back from this sort of thing. There are going to be consequences. And those are the victims of this economic warfare. When government goes, white businesses need to be reformed, it's, white business that, there is no such thing as white business. Even if I was a white business, I'm the sole proprietor, I'm a white guy. I employ 10 black people in my business. They are stakeholders. They might not be shareholders, but they are primary stakeholders because their welfare is directly affected by the success of the business. If the business doesn't do well, they can't get paid. They've got dependents. Their communities require them to earn an income, part of which they then spend in their own communities, which drives economic activity there. There's a whole massive multiplier effect. The entire economy is a symbiotic organism. So when you declare war on white business, and you shut a white business down, you might put 1 white guy out of work and fuck up his life, but you drag 10 black people down with him. And with the 10 black people you drag down, if each of them have 2 dependents, that's 10 plus the 20 dependents, that's 30 black people dragged down already with 1 white guy. Then the entire community that's dependent on their income for spending in those communities, you start dragging those people down with it. At the end of the day, you close down 1 white business to get 1 guy, and you negatively affect hundreds of people in the black community, which is why I say white business is a lie. It's a communist propaganda term that's meaningless. There's no such thing as white business. Just as there's no such thing as black business, business is business. It doesn't know color, and for a good reason. That's not a feel-good term. It's a reality. So sorry, I went on and on and on and on. But let me just go through your comments again, because you guys make some really good comments. Beth was talking about her dad bringing Saudi in the early to mid 70s. Okay, yeah, so I definitely didn't circulate anywhere close to yes, I share this frustration, dude, and it's not just forthcoming from. I just keep adjusting my lighting as the lighting outside changes. Not long story, I'm saying a weird angle. It's not just within a specific community. It's like everybody is just firmly got their eyes closed, shutters on, like blinkers on. Let's not look at the terrible shit that's happening around us. Yes, I get it. It's scary and it's despairing. But at the end of the day, it's a monster we cannot run away with. It's a monster that we have to meet head on to some degree. And it's going to be unpleasant. We're not going to enjoy it. It's going to be a complete shit show. But denying that the problem exists isn't going to fix it. And unfortunately, denial isn't a river in Egypt. It's something that everyone seems to be just indulging in hugely. My comment section keeps jumping around, but don't worry, guys. How's it, Kim? Good to see you here too. Roman is the only hipster I can. I'll be sure to tell him if he's not watching by any chance. I'll forward that to him. I'm cynical on your behalf, dude. I see the damage that the lockdown is perpetuating. People are slowly waking up to the point of realization. And I think I'm hoping when this grand awakening finally happens, that there is some sort of massive repercussion. You know, we can't carry on being distracted by shit that's happening in America. We're not Americans. Yes, there's that thing. If America catches a cold, the whole world gets sick. I get it, but fuck them. Okay. Right now, they can deal with their problems. We've got massive ones right here that need immediate attention. Getting distracted by American talking points about intersectionality and racism in our high school. There's a super overprivileged high school in the super overprivileged, very rich part of Cape Town. That shouldn't even be a national discussion point right now. The fact that it even is, just to me, I can tear what remains of my hair out of my head. There you go, Natalie Cornier, homeschooling. You can teach your kids religion, your history, your values, protect them from sex education at age 7. Exactly. You do not have to expose your kids to socialist education. You can actually, as an adult and as the parent, guardian, and caretaker of the welfare of your own children, you get to exercise direct control over their education, which, as a parent, is a basic right you should have. I mean, that's why governing bodies at schools exist. The governing bodies, coincidentally, is something that the government has indulged in open warfare with since forever. They've been trying to erode the power and influence of school governing bodies on how schools are run, because government can't stand the ANC government at least, cannot stand centralized state control being taken out of their hands. That's eroded. They want centralized state control over everything, and they will not be happy until they've achieved that. Beth makes another good point about homeschooling. Is you can go on holiday whenever you like and take advantages of low rates in quiet resort towns. Exactly. You are not caught in the obligatory school holiday cycle, like a zombie. Everyone does the same thing. Everyone goes on holiday at the same time and get wrecked by being overcharged for going somewhere. For a 10-year period between 2007 and 2017, more than 83,000 businesses closed in SA. Jeepers, I did not know this. 691 average close per month, 160 per week, 32 per weekday. Geez, like how many do you think are closing now? This is frightening statistics, and I would really like to investigate this further and do a write-up. If you wouldn't mind, sir, if you can just tell me where I can reference this information from, I would love to jump on it, but it sounds legit to me. I believe you. I'm not saying I don't. I totally believe it. I'm just going to need a reference for it because I think that's something worth writing about. Capella, just wait until the global supply chain break starts to surface. Maybe a 1 year plus window left, but things are good right now. Things are okay in the sense of not good, but wait until the dollar collapses. The Davi Ruud mentioned the same thing on his chat to Anton, if Anton's still here, on Anton Stegman show. I can highly recommend, I'll repost it, I can highly recommend watching Anton's chat to Davi. Davi was having wine. Davi wasn't giving a shit. He was shooting from the hip, dropping truth bombs left, right, and center. It was an epic, epic interview. And Davi said the same thing, that there's something very strange about the American economy and something very strange about the strength of the dollar that he doesn't quite understand and can't quite quantify. And it's something that concerns him. And again, the dollar might not collapse, but it's also a fake economy to a large degree. If you look at government debt as a percentage of GDP, so this is something that you can measure cross-sectionally and in time series, it is higher now than it has been at the height of World War II for the American involvement. Where is that money being spent? how is that debt, questions like, how is that debt being generated in the United States? Like, what is causing it? That stuff we don't have to ask that question, but if we really believe in the sanctity of the US dollar, then we need to start raising our eyebrows at why this historic high of debt as a percentage of GDP in the US. What are they funding? Who are they funding? What's that spending happening on? I mean, it's not like they're sending astronauts to the moon anymore. That's being done by SpaceX, which is a private sector venture. Every parliamentary committee must have all the parties represented. Why does this not apply to the NCC? Exactly. We are all, after all, a representative constitution. But Paul, your rights are suspended by the state of disaster. I mean, what disaster? Apart from the economy tanking, all the shops closing, people being left destitute and selling themselves on the street. But there's no coronavirus disaster here. So we also have to say, what is this national disaster that leaves us in a state of disaster and just allowed government to run roughshod over our rights with no oversight? And the opposition, our friends in the DA, Zak would have spoken to me today. He's good people. Dan Barnard's good people. Caleb Kachalia is good. They've got really talented, very good people in the DA, don't get me wrong, and they do really good work. But as an entity, where the fuck were they with this? There was a lot of absenteeism. They gave the government the idea of a staged... They gave the government their idea of a phased lockdown is different to what the ANC implemented. I get that. Here's the problem. ANC has never met a terrible idea it didn't like. It took the DA's idea and it threw out the good parts and it kept the really shitty ones. You do not give these people ideas, guys. Don't give the ANC ideas. Don't give them bad ideas. Don't try to help them because they're not interested in being helped. They're interested. The only thing they're interested in is fucking you up. Don't help them do that. It's like fatherland. This is the worst kind of, it's like an abusive fucking relationship. The only way you deal with an abusive relationship, whether it's with your employer, with a spouse, girlfriend or boyfriend or government, is two ways. One, the abuser needs to go for therapy to change their ways, and the abused party needs to set healthy boundaries as a stopgap in order to stop being abused or lessen the abuse while the abuser changes and gets therapy. Guess what? If abuser doesn't change and the boundaries ain't going to work, and eventually you have to end that relationship. And that's the problem with the ANC is we can't. We're hostages. We're not in an abusive relationship. We're hostages. Sorry, I keep going on and just comments that you guys put up minutes ago already. Yeah, I saw that poll, Tian, and it's like to save lives. And I just keep going, what lives are we saving? You know, we're killing a lot more people right now. Like go look at Mitchell's Plain, Lavender Hill, Philippi, Kaalicha, and go tell me about all the lives we're saving. I'll be honest, I don't have to hope. I'm just looking at what the people are doing. Businesses are opening, people are getting hired, people want to thrive. Cash, not debt, is being put into the economy. That is a positive aspect, but government is still getting in the way. And I want to keep getting in the way. If government got out of the way completely, we would bounce back. We would. We would find a way. There would still be huge negative consequences that we can't escape from, but the recovery would actually happen. With government keep getting in the way, you can't recover when someone keeps trying to drag you back with bullshit like alcohol bans, cigarette bans, restrictions on trading, restrictions on tourism, all this sort of nonsense. I mean, the tourism industry is disproportionately important in the South African economy, and they're getting fucked left, right, and center, and nothing's being done to address that immediate concern. And that's a problem. How's it, Andre and everyone? Limited characters and comments make it impossible to unpack. Yeah, this is true. Jay, South Africa is busy experiencing its own normalcy bias with COVID. So many people are considered level-headed have focused on the mortality rate than the financial shit show on the street. Never mind the horizon. And God forbid you counter them with facts. I know, you are still to this day a monster that just wants grandma to die, and people aren't getting it. Well, they'll get it when grandma dies because her pension is wrecked, or the ANC steals it because that's a new thing. Magnus Heistek did a really good tweet yesterday. I put it on the Paratus Facebook page. I'm going to put it on there again just to remind people, get your money out of a pension now. If you're 55 and or nearing retirement, get your money out of pensions. You can redirect that money into other types of investment vehicles, but don't give the government the opportunity to steal your pension money, because that's what the fuckers want to do next. That's what you want to do next. Tian, there was a list of businesses that closed in Cape Town. They were only restaurants. That was already scary. Well, that was just a list specific to restaurants. But I mean, the major big hardware store, the Ben Bell's just outside the Somerset Mall, has paper up in the window. It's a big hardware store permanently closed. They're not opening up again. That's a huge business just gone, just like that. And businesses don't have the capacity to just absorb 3 months worth of overheads with zero revenue. I mean, this is not, we don't need a model to tell us this. Here we go. EOSA did the research there, and an article on South Africa that covered there are other platforms. Okay, EOSA, I will go. My Google foo isn't weak. I will find it and I will read it. Anton, jy het nie veel gemis nie, by the way. That was what you said like 5 minutes ago. I just told them to watch your show with Davie Ruet because it was excellent. It was a really, 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 really good interview. And Davie said a lot of really solid things. I agree that debt is a problem, a big one, but it's still the strongest currency. The people make it stronger. This is the thing, right? The US has a very dynamic economy. It's very resilient because out of all the economy, apart from it being massive on its own, I mean, the Texan economy alone is the size of like several European economies together. So it's a huge country economically. It's got a hell of a lot of stuff happening, a lot of trade, a lot of economic activity. So if you just unleash the Americans upon themselves, they make things work. They've got a really good attitude, as in they work hard and they get stuff done. So they do bounce back faster purely because of who they are. The globe is looking for the security of the US dollar, so even if it gets deflated due to them printing money, it will still hold up. As it has for many years, the Federal Reserve has been printing money and has gotten away with it because so many other countries use the dollar as exactly a type of reserve currency or as a store of value or whatever you want to call it. Like dollar is kind of, the US dollar kind of became the pseudo new gold. Tian, 2% mortality rate. Yeah, basically. Don't worry, Ice. That penny did drop for me, but thanks for clarifying. At least you see I do read your stuff. And I just noticed that you've got an alien in a bottle as your logo. I never noticed that before. I thought it was a flashbang grenade for some reason in my head. Don't ask me why. Ice. SA tourism, it seems as well as travel options are going to be shut until Feb next year. I saw this being mentioned, but I haven't been able to find anything official saying that it's definitely closed until Feb. But if it's closed until Feb, I laugh and I go, there's nothing to reopen, guys. Like no business, no economic sector can be shut down for a year and then you expect it to just restart. It's done. You know, if that's the case, it's done. It's over. Yeah, the US economy is a massive bubble. It is, but it hasn't popped yet. The question is it going to pop, or are they going to carry on propping it up, or if it's going to pop, when? Which is why you never keep all your assets in one thing, even in dollars. Diversify. If you can, diversify your asset holdings. If you still have assets after this lockdown, because I'm pretty much not doing so good in that front. Anton, here's a question to business owners. Will you consider selling your products or services on an online marketplace in US dollars and receive your payment in an offshore US dollar account? Obviously, there will be transaction fees around 5%. I'm thinking of it to create our own new economy. And Anton makes a very valid point, because Anton's the guy, and I still need to speak to him about this, that has actually successfully registered an offshore portion of his business in Delaware. There are massive tax benefits to it, so long as you don't render any services or sales in the US itself. It's a bit pricey to set up. I think it costs you about $500, maybe slightly more. But it's definitely something that's worth looking at if you're South African based. I now have a South African registered business. I would like to get it up and running first before I start making major changes. But the fact is, it's something I'm considering, and it's something I'm thinking about, is getting my business offshore, getting that income stream rather offshore US dollar based than keeping it in rands. Get it away from the government's grubby paws. Ice makes a valid point. Okay. Flashbang equals an alien. Your logo is small on my screen and I didn't pay attention. That's the only way. Thank you very much for subscribing, Capella. I really appreciate it. I appreciate every single person that does actually subscribe because you know what? I'm just starting out with the YouTube thing. The Facebook thing I've been doing for a long time, but it's time to diversify. I think Anton is correct. The US economy will remain the biggest economy for the next 100 years. Also, in part because no other economy is doing what they're doing. The Chinese one, a lot of the growth of the Chinese economy is due to uncompetitive practices by the CCP's economic policy. And monetary specifically. They kept the value of the yuan artificially low in order to stimulate exports, and they did this for years, if not decades. So you saw massive economic growth in China, especially in manufacturing. This led to a large-scale eradication of poverty, although the definition of poverty is sketchy at best. So the Chinese economy did great, but it did great at the expense of everyone else in the world because they undervalue their currency to stimulate exports. Now that you've got this massive corona fuck up and everyone's suddenly becoming more anti-China because the CCP are a bunch of evil murderous dictators, now people are looking at moving industries back home, and guess what? That's an expensive exercise. Consumers have been conditioned to be used to lower prices of their goods. It's not going to be a straightforward, easy thing. And I don't agree with trade wars. I don't agree with tariffs and barriers to trade. But a lot of people that criticize Donald Trump for starting a trade war with China lose sight of the fact that he's not starting a trade war and he's not fighting them with tariffs where they are not indulging in anti-competitive practices themselves. And the World Trade Organization, spineless, jellyfish, little Chinese lapdog, never took the Chinese on this. Barack Obama never did. George W. never did. Now here's a guy who finally says, fuck you, trade war. And libertarians lose their minds and go and free marketeers and go, oh, but the market isn't free, guys. When you trade with China, you're not trading on equal terms. There is no freedom there. They are abusing their position in order to take advantage of you. That is not free trade. So you can't shoot down. I'm not a Donald Trump fan. I have a brain, okay? Politicians are politicians. I just still maintain that the man is not remotely as incompetent or evil as people are making him out to be, and people need to let go of their Trump derangement syndrome. Disagree with me, agree with me, doesn't matter. You're entitled to your opinion. But the reality is China is not a free and fair trade partner, and that he took them on and blew them out the water and gave them some of their own medicine. To me, fair's fair. If you're going to play with the big boys, at some point, you're going to get your medicine given back to you. But anyway, I went and off on a tangent. It has been looking for a pin for a while and found it in the corona. Now the racism thing is going to bring the Dems sensation. Look, I think the Dems and the left in the US are overplaying their hand with all this race right bullshit that they're doing, and I don't think it's going to turn out as well for them as they think. There will be consequences. It's impossible to call what happens in November because, let's be brutally honest, nobody or very few people were confident that Donald Trump was going to win the election. So making any election predictions based on polls and based on what the media says and based on sentiment that you try and get, in all honesty, you can't call these elections anymore. Anything can happen. It's anybody's race. Even someone as inarticulate and clearly demented as Joe Biden, he can still bring home the bacon. You never know. As a South African, you'll have to pay income tax on all foreign income if you bring the money back to SA. That's it. Or if you live here, you'll have to pay income tax regardless. Yeah. You won't be able to escape all tax burdens, but if you're clever, you might just find a way to minimize that exposure. Here we go. Here's what Davy had to say about the US economy. So you're brilliant. You already made a bookmark there, Anton. Fantastic. I'm actually going to copy that link and put it. I'll put up the whole interview again on the Broadest page, and I'll just put that link in the comments below it. On Thursday, I'm going to do a stream on diversifying income streams, beginning to state-proof your income. It will need to be a series. Yeah, it's a big topic, Beth. I don't think you're going to be able to unpack it in one shot in one stream. Like, there's a lot of stuff I also want to stream about, but the topics get bigger and bigger, and I try to condense them and make them small, but not too much, not too much effect. And on that bombshell, folks, I think we're coming up just over 50 minutes, and I ranted and raved at you, and there was a whole bunch of you that watched, and I really appreciate it. Thank you. If you want to support what I do, and if you like coffee, please follow the link below or above this video, depending upon your platform, and buy yourself a packet of Boeretroos coffee beans or the grinded ones via their website. They're good people with good coffee, and I'm probably going to do that really cringy thing where I drink it in a Boeretroos cup while live stream. Reality is, if I do drink their coffee, it's because I like it, and I've been buying it for so long, and it was just a natural progression. And if you don't want to buy coffee and you still want to donate something or whatever, you can scan that with your phone, with your Zapper, and you can send me like 20 Rand, and I can pay for my internet bill or whatever. But that's it, really, from a shilling point of view. I'll keep you posted about the merchandise, which is hopefully happening soon. And subscribe to Beth's channel at Etheria. She does excellent work. If you like Big Daddy Liberty, Roman's thing, which is Morning Shot, Jeremy on Germ Warfare, and there's a couple of other ones. Give Ronaldo Gous subscribe as well. He's got so many, but you know what? The man does talk a hell of a lot of sense, and he came out swinging for gun owners on more than one occasion. So give him a bit of support as well. If you can think of anyone else, Joe Emilio, comedian, also does excellent work. If you can think of any other channels that need a bit of support, let me know who they are, and I will try to point people towards them, because I think this guerrilla media thing that we're creating away from the corporate media, where we're a whole bunch of different individuals with our own opinions with some overlap, I'd like to see that become a real thing. The Paratus business database is going well. If you have a small business and you want to be on it, I don't charge money for it. It's being built. Please send me an email there, and I will add your business to it. And even if you're a professional that works for yourself and you don't have an actual registered business, but you'd still like the exposure, just send your details to me. And Beth Capella wants to know where to find your channel. It's Eleutheria. Hang on. She spells it here for you. Boom. The Eleutheria South Africa channel. I don't even know if I'm pronouncing that right, but do subscribe to Beth. We were still trying to do a stream at some point, Beth, but yeah. It's the Liberty Torch with the turquoise background. So there you go. Folks, thank you for tuning in. I think the CHS Bunker is hosting a Technical Tuesday. It's a legal show. It's two legal professionals talking to Aziza Scheiderreiter about legal stuff. You can go find them on Facebook. I'll just put it on the banner, CHS Bunker. Hang on, CHS Bunker. And you can find them on Facebook, and it'll scroll at the bottom. And you can watch Technical Tuesday tonight. Hopefully it's not postponed again and all the lawyers can be there, but it's a really good show. I highly recommend it. And there's Beth as well. So guys, ladies, gentlemen, and others, thank you for tuning in, and see you guys very soon. Tomorrow night, 8 p.m., Maurice Ritt of the Institute of Race Relations and our chin wagging on here. You get to talk to us. We'll talk to you, you talk to us, and see you tomorrow. Thank you, and goeiemiddag.